Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon. Today I want to provide an update on our response to the China virus and what my administration is doing to get the outbreak in the Sun Belt under control. Seems largely in Sun Belt, but could be spreading. My team is also working night and day with Capitol Hill to advance the next economic relief package. We're working very hard on it. We're making a lot of progress. I also know that both sides want to get it done. We'll call it phase 4. I think we're going to get it done. We'll protect our workers, our schools, and our families, and protect them very strongly. As one family, we mourn every precious life that's been lost. I pledge in their honor that we will develop a vaccine and we will defeat the virus. We're doing very well with vaccine development and therapeutic development. But I want to thank our brave doctors and nurses and frontline responders. The job they do is incredible, and they are truly brave. My administration will stop at nothing to save lives and shield the vulnerable, which is so important. We've learned so much about this disease, and we know who the vulnerable are, and we are going to indeed shield them. And again, the vaccines are coming, and they're coming a lot sooner than anyone thought possible, by years. If you look at the old system and look at the new system, I think by years. The China virus is a vicious and dangerous illness, but we've learned a great deal about it and who it targets. We are in the process of developing a strategy that's going to be very, very powerful. We've developed them as we go along. Some areas of our country are doing very well. Others are doing less well. It will probably, unfortunately, get worse before it gets better. Something I don't like saying about things, but that's the way it is. It's what we have. You look over the world, it's all over the world, and it tends to do that. The governors are working very, very hard, and we are supporting them 100%. Everything they need, they get, and we are taking good care. We have tremendous supplies and a great supply chain, whether it's ventilators or gowns or just about anything they need. So that's a big difference from inheriting very, very empty cupboards. The median age of those who succumb to the China virus is 78 years old. Roughly half of all deaths have been individuals in nursing homes or long-term care. In one study, 90% of those hospitalized had underlying medical conditions, whether it's heart or diabetes, but usually it's some kind of a condition. It seems that people have that, and if they do, it's a problem, no question about it. Young adults may often have mild or even no symptoms. They won't even know they're sick. They won't have any idea that they have a virus. They won't have any idea at all. America's youth will act responsibly, and we're asking everybody that when you are not able to socially distance, wear a mask, get a mask. Whether you like the mask or not, they have an impact, they'll have an effect, and we need everything we can get. Data shows children have the lowest fatality risk. 99.96% of all virus fatalities are in adults. Think of that. So that's much, much, much less than 1% for children, young people. By understanding these risk profiles and learning how to treat the disease, we've been able to greatly reduce mortality in the United States. In fact, we'll show you a chart and how well we do compared to the rest of the world. We have several treatments already available that significantly reduce the severity and duration of the disease, including remdesivir, which has been very successful, and a widely available steroid treatment. And we have many more happening and coming out. We've learned best practices for treatment of the virus at every stage and have shared these findings with medical providers, and we've shared them all over the world. The relationship with other countries has been very strong. We're all working together. This includes ensuring all hospitals are aware of the importance of different approaches to oxygen treatment, including high-flow oxygen, the importance of steroid treatment for those on ventilators. And when you're on a ventilator, we've learned a tremendous about the use of the ventilator. And at the beginning, people never had an experience like this. where we needed so many ventilators so fast, and even the use of the ventilators. But the doctors have become incredibly, and nurses and helpers have become incredibly good at the use of a ventilator, which is actually a very complicated procedure, and allocating remdesivir to hospitals based on new admissions, since it works best early in hospitalization. And that's something that they've really started. They're using it much earlier. Fatalities nationwide have fallen 75% since mid-April. It's a great number. As cases and fatalities rise in certain hard-hit states, which you're looking at right now, we're surging personnel, supplies, and therapeutics. We, again, have tremendous amounts of supplies. We are in very good shape, and we can move them quickly. Our case fatality rate has continued to decline and is lower than the European Union and almost everywhere else in the world. If you watch American television, you think that the United States was the only country involved with and suffering from the China virus. Well, the world is suffering very badly. But the fact is that many countries are suffering very, very, very badly. And they've been suffering from this virus for a long time. We've done much better than most, and with the fatality rate at a lower rate than most, it's something that we can talk about, but we're working again with them because we're helping a lot of countries that people don't even know about. I get calls all the time asking for help, especially as it pertains to the ventilators. They need help with ventilators. They have to get them. They're very hard to get. We're making thousands now a month, thousands of ventilators a month. It's been quite amazing. We keep doing the good job, and things will get better and better. We'll be putting up charts behind me showing different statistics and different rates of success, and I guess you could say also things that we can do better on. But you'll see them. They'll be put up as we go. In April, the average age of individuals who tested positive for the virus was over 50 years old. Today, the average age is significantly younger. Hospital lengths of stay are almost half of what they were in April. So the stays are about half. The rate of cases requiring hospitalization has been reduced, and mortality among those admitted to the hospital is nearly one half of what it was in April. We've learned a lot. We've learned a lot about this disease, how to handle it. The doctors have learned a lot, not only in the use of the ventilators, but in many other things. And things are happening, too, like the remdesivir and other elements, steroids, et cetera. But these trends could change without our continued and relentless focus. And that's what we have. We have a relentless focus, and it's been that way from the beginning. But we've learned so much. As you know, in recent weeks, we've seen a concerning rise in the cases in many parts of our south. You look at south, southwest, and west. This growth in cases first began to appear in mid-June, primarily among 18 to 35-year-olds, many of whom were asymptomatic. We're also facing the challenge of a significant spike in virus cases across the rest of the Western Hemisphere, including Mexico. Mexico's been hit very, very, very hard. As you know, the president, a great gentleman, was here 2 weeks ago, and they have really been hit hard. Because we've achieved a nearly four-fold increase in testing capacity in 2 months, we're successfully identifying more asymptomatic and mild cases. Some cases so mild that you really don't even treat them. Some cases with children where they don't even know that they're ill. And I guess they're not very ill because they recover almost immediately. Per capita, the U.S. is conducting 50% more tests than Europe. And we've conducted nearly 3 times as many tests as all of the other countries in the Western Hemisphere combined. Be over 50 million tests. This allows us to isolate those who are infected, even those without symptoms, so we know exactly where it's going and when it's going to be there. We're also working to reduce turnaround time. My administration has been aggressively responding to case growth in the Sun Belt, and we continue to do so, working very close with all governors, but right now, in particular, those governors. We're coordinating closely with hospitals and governors. In the last 3 weeks, I've sent senior officials into 9 states to meet with governors and provide recommendations to the various leaders of the state, including hospital administrators, etc. My administration currently has 0 unfulfilled requests for equipment or anything else that they need from the governors. No governor needs anything right now, and we think we'll have it that way till the end because, frankly, we are stocked up and ready to go wherever we have to go. We've nearly 7,000 National Guard and military medical personnel in Texas, California, Florida, and Arizona that's helping us greatly. I want to thank them very much. The military has been fantastic. We're closely monitoring hospital capacity in these states. Hospitals are open for elective surgeries and other procedures. So hospitals are open for elective surgeries. We want Americans to get the medical treatments they need. All of the governors we've spoken with say they have enough bed capacity. That's a great thing. Our initial shutdown was to prevent the overflow of our hospitals and to allow us to meet the demands caused by this global pandemic, including the ventilators. And a permanent shutdown was really never an option in terms of what we're doing right now. This would be completely unsustainable, produce debilitating economic fallback, and lead to catastrophic public health consequences. There are consequences to shutdowns, and we've saved potentially millions of lives by doing the initial shutdown, but now we're very aware of this disease. We understand the disease to a large extent. Nobody's going to maybe ever fully understand it, but we'll end up with a cure, we'll end up with therapeutics, we'll end up with a vaccine very soon, all three. We're instead asking Americans to use masks, socially distance, and employ vigorous hygiene. Wash your hands every chance you get while sheltering high-risk populations. We are imploring young Americans to avoid packed bars and other crowded indoor gatherings. Be safe and be smart. We're surging testing capacity to identify and isolate cases. This includes a newly approved testing platform to nursing homes across the South. We're being very, very vigilant with respect to nursing homes because you know all of the problems that we've had with so many people, so sadly, they were infected, so that all of the staff and residents can be routinely tested and isolated to ensure our elderly are even more strongly protected than anybody else. That's really the high-risk people, the high-risk, wonderful people. Once this current surge in cases declines, this same testing platform will enable people to visit their loved ones after taking a test, which is a big difference. Ultimately, our goal is not merely to manage the pandemic, but to end it. We want to get rid of it as soon as we can. That is why getting a vaccine remains a top priority. 2 vaccine candidates are entering the final stage of clinical trials this month. This was achieved in record time. It used to be years before you were in a position like we are right now. 4 other vaccines will enter final trials in the following weeks, and we're mass producing all of the top candidates so that the first approved vaccine will be available immediately. And logistically, we have the military ready to go. We have great people, logistic military people, a wonderful general who's waiting for the vaccine so they can distribute it in record time. That's what's going to happen. So our military is all set to go. We will deliver a vaccine, therapeutics, whatever it is necessary, and defeat the virus once and for all. And I'll take a few questions if you'd like. I will say this. I want to thank all of the staff, the White House staff, all of the doctors that we've been working with so closely, and just a lot of very positive things are happening. It's a nasty, horrible disease that should have never been allowed to escape China, but it did. And it infected the world, and the world is suffering, but we're going to get it taken care of, and we're helping lots of other countries. John?
Mr. President, first I just wanted to get a clarification. Your press secretary said today that you sometimes take more than 1 test a day. Well, why is that? And how often?
Well, I didn't know about more than 1. I do take probably on average a test every 2 days, 3 days, and I don't know of any time I've taken 2 tests in 1 day, but I could see that happening.
So Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill both said that they want to see more money for testing. They want to send billions of dollars to the states so they can do more testing. And you probably saw Mick Mulvaney the other day said that his kids, it took him a week to get test results back. He said this is simply inexcusable. given where we are in the pandemic. Do you think we have a problem with testing in this country right now?
Well,
And are you in favor of more money for testing?
We've done more testing by far than anybody. Some of the tests, because it is massive volume, it takes longer. Others of the tests, as you know, are very quick. They're 5-minute and 15-minute tests, and those are, frankly, the ones that I prefer. But we're doing massive numbers, and the numbers are coming down. And as we go, as an example, there are thousands and thousands of kits being made right now, which give you a 15-minute and a 5-minute test. So we'll be able to get those numbers down. Those numbers are similar in other places. They're also doing massive numbers like nobody thought possible. But those numbers will be coming down. I agree. I think it's a good thing if we can do
Are
that.
you in favor of more money for testing?
Well, they're going to make a presentation to me tonight and tomorrow on that. And again, we're leading the world. I think the second country at 12 million, we're going to be over 50 million tests. Second country is India with 12 million. Then you have 7 million, 6 million, and 4 million. I think that we are doing tremendous amount of testing, but if the doctors and the professionals feel that even though we're at a level that nobody ever dreamt possible, that they would like to do more, I'm okay with it.
Why are your doctors not with you here today? Where's Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx?
Well, Dr. Birx is right outside. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've got 2 questions for you, if that's all right. Number one, I just wanted to know, in November, do you want the American people to judge
Could
you
you
on
speak
the...
up, please?
Do you want the American people to judge you on the ballot in November by how you've handled this pandemic so far?
This, among other things, I think the American people will judge us on this, but they'll judge us on the economy that I created and that already we're creating. We're setting record job numbers, as you know. I think we're going to have a very strong year next year. I think we're going to have a very strong third quarter, a very good fourth quarter, but I think next year is going to be a record year, and I think they're going to judge me on that. I think they're going to judge me on the tax cutting and the regulation cutting, which nobody's ever done to the extent that we've been able to do it, on rebuilding the military, on how we've handled the VA. On the VA, we got Veterans Choice. Nobody thought that would be possible. That's been many decades. They've been trying to get Veterans Choice. It's called Choice, where they can go get a doctor if they have to wait online for 2 weeks or 5 weeks or 2 days. And frankly, that's been a great thing. Veterans accountability, I think they'll judge me on that. They'll judge me on all of the things we've done. I don't think, and I think we can say this with surety, and it's never been even challenged in 3.5 years, the first 3.5 years, the first years of a presidency, I don't think any administration, any president has accomplished so much as we've accomplished, from energy to health to so many other things. And then this came in, and the plague, I call it the plague came in, terrible thing, should have been stopped, wasn't stopped. It came in, we had to shut things down to save potentially millions of lives. We did that, and now we've started them up. And I think we've really started it up very successfully. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. President. You've been saying for months that the virus would simply disappear, and now you're saying that it's likely to get worse before it gets better. If it does keep getting worse, if Americans keep dying, are you responsible for that?
Well, the virus will disappear. It will disappear. I think that I always like to say, as you know, either way, when you look at it, the governors are working with me. I'm working with the governor. We're working hand in hand. I think we're all responsible. I view it as a team. Very good relationships with the governors. Very, very good relationships. I could say I'm fully responsible, but you know, one day we had a virus come in, and I closed the borders, did a lot of things that were very good. In fact, Dr. Fauci said we saved tens of thousands of lives when I closed the border, and nobody wanted to do it. I wanted to do it. We closed the border to China. We put on the ban. We didn't want people coming in from heavily infected China. Fairly shortly thereafter, I closed the borders from Europe, coming in from Europe. Those were tremendous moves. We would have, if it's one person, it's too much, but we're at, let's say, 140,000. We could have double, triple, quadruple that number if we didn't. So we did a lot of things right. We did a lot of things right, including with equipment. So it's a shame that it happened. It shouldn't have happened. China should have stopped it. Please.
Thank you,
Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you, President Trump. If I could, two questions. My first question is, we have a very quick testing platform here at the White House.
Yes.
It's great. You get tested, you know, very quickly. Do you think that it would be easier to reopen and restart businesses if we could produce more of those machines?
We're
for
trying to
people?
do that. It's a great question. We're trying very much to do that. So rather than sending your tests in and, it goes through the mail one day, comes back another day, no matter how they send them, it's a day and a day, so that's 2 days already wasted. And then if it spends by the time you get it back, it's 3 or 4 days if they do an efficient job. We're trying to get the testing on site.
Thank you.
I like it the best.
And my follow-up, my second question, it's a little bit different topic, but it's one that a lot of people are talking about. Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I know you've talked in the past about Prince Andrew, and you've criticized Bill Clinton's behavior. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well, whatever it is. I don't know the situation with Prince Andrew. Just don't know. Not aware of it.
Mr.
please,
President,
go
Mr. President.
On unemployment insurance, how much below $600 are you willing to go? And you said that the economy is bouncing back strong, so why do we need to even cut it at all?
Well, the economy is getting stronger, and I think we have a chance to have a very strong economy, especially if some of the things that I just spoke about work. We want to have people go back and want to go back to work, as opposed to be sort of forced into a position where they're making more money than they expected to make, and the employers are having a hard time getting them back to work. So that was a decision that was made. I was against that original decision, but they did that. It still worked out well because it gave people a lifeline, a real lifeline. Now we're doing it again. They're thinking about doing 70% of the amount. The amount would be the same, but doing it in a little bit smaller initial amounts so that people are going to want to go back to work, as opposed to making so much money that they really don't have to. But we were very generous with them. I think that it's been a tremendously successful program. The whole thing has been successful if you look. I mean, we're in a pandemic, and yet we're producing tremendous number of jobs. That was something that nobody thought possible. Okay, please.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Yesterday you said that wearing a mask was an act of patriotism. If that is the case, why don't you do it more frequently?
Well, I do actually do it when I need. I mean, I carry the mask when I have to go. I went into Walter Reed Hospital the other day. I have the mask right here, and I carry it, and I will use it gladly, no problem with it. And I've said that, and I say, if you can, use the mask. When you can, use the mask. If you're close to each other, if you're in a group, I would put it on when I'm in a group. If I'm in an elevator and there are other people with me, including like security people, it's not their fault. They have to be in the elevator. I want to protect them also. I put on a mask. I have no problem with the masks. I view it this way. Anything that potentially can help, and that certainly can potentially help, is a good thing. I have no problem. I carry it. I wear it. You saw me wearing it a number of times, and I'll continue. Please.
Thank you,
Can
Mr.
I ask a
President.
quick
Thank you.
follow-up?
Go ahead, please.
So are you sending mixed messages, though?
Thank you.
Yesterday you tweeted out an image wearing a mask, and then last evening we saw you not wearing a mask at your hotel.
Well, I don't know the hotel. I was pretty far away from people, but I would say this. I've explained it, I think, very well. If you're close together, I would put on the mask, and if you're not, I would say that if you're, for instance, I'll see, like here, you've been all tested, I've been tested. Oftentimes I'll be with people that are fully tested, I've been tested. In theory, you don't need the mask. I'm getting used to the mask, and the reason is, think about patriotism. Maybe it is, it helps. It helps. Now, we have experts that have said in the recent past that masks aren't necessarily good to wear. You know that. But now they've changed their mind. If they change their mind, that's good enough for me. So I wear it when appropriate. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, sir. A lot of Americans, though, may be surprised at your change of tone over all of this, a more perhaps realistic tone. Some would look at it that way. The sudden embrace of masks, social distancing,
Well, I've always agreed with that. I mean, I've never fought either one, but certainly social distancing. I want to. That's common sense.
The
6
idea
feet
that
to me is common sense. I'd like to say maybe make it a little bit further.
the idea that things will get worse perhaps before they get better here, and perhaps the realization that this resurgence, if you will, is for real when you used to talk about it in terms of little fires being put out here and there. Would you
We have them
respond
too.
to that?
No, we have embers and fires, and we have big fires, and unfortunately now Florida in a little tough or in a big tough position. You have a great governor there. You have a great governor in Texas. You have people that are very, very skilled people, and I think they're going to handle it very well. Their hospital capacities are holding up, but Texas is a big state, and it's very well run, and so is Florida, and I think they'll do a very good job.
You changing your tone, though, sir?
I just wanted to ask you about the issue of vaccines, which you already mentioned. Yesterday, a study by a Chinese company showed some promising results for its coronavirus vaccine candidate. If China were first in developing the vaccine, or even if it weren't, would the administration be willing to work with China to bring a successful Chinese vaccine to the U.S.?
Yeah, we're willing to work with anybody that's going to get us a good result. We're very close to the vaccine. I think we're going to have some very good results. We're already in testing. Nobody thought that would be possible. Under the old system, it would be a year to 2 years before you could even think about using the word testing. So I think we've had a lot of, and the reason we're testing, I mean, they've had good results. So now we have to see in the testing also for safety, because they have to make sure it's safe. And I think you're going to see something over the next fairly short period of time, maybe very short period of time, having to do with therapeutics and vaccines that are very good. So we'll be doing these quite often. We're going to keep you abreast of this, and we'll also talk about some of the other topics like our economy, which is doing well. The stock market had another good day. I think they have a good day because they see a lot of positive things happening on this front too. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Great honor to be with you today. And being here is a really important moment as far as I'm concerned. My first duty as president is to protect the American people, and today I'm taking action to fulfill that sacred obligation. In recent weeks, there's been a radical movement to defund, dismantle, and dissolve our police departments. Extreme politicians have joined this anti-police crusade and relentlessly vilified our law enforcement heroes. To look at it from any standpoint, the effort to shut down policing in their own communities has led to a shocking explosion of shootings, killings, murders, and heinous crimes of violence. This bloodshed must end. This bloodshed will end. Today I'm announcing a surge of federal law enforcement into American communities plagued by violent crime. We'll work every single day to restore public safety, protect our nation's children, and bring violent perpetrators to justice. We've been doing it, and you've been seeing what's happening all around the country. We've just started this process, and frankly, we have no choice but to get involved. With us today is Attorney General Bill Barr. Thank you, Bill, very much. Acting DHS Secretary Chad Wolf. Chad, thank you. And FBI Director Christopher Wray. Thank you, Chris, very much. We're also pleased to be joined by Americans who have tragically lost their loved ones to recent violence. To each of you, please know that America grieves with you, that we pledge to honor the memory of your cherished loved ones by fighting to bring safety in every single community. We will bring that safety, you will see. For decades, politicians running many of our nation's major cities have put the interests of criminals above the rights of law-abiding citizens. These same politicians have now embraced the far-left movement to break up our police departments, causing violent crime in their cities to spiral, and I mean spiral seriously, out of control. In New York City, over 300 people were shot in the last month alone, a 277 at least % increase over the same period of a year ago. Murders this year have spiked 27% in Philadelphia, 94% in Minneapolis, compared to the same period in 2019. Perhaps no citizens have suffered more from the menace of violent crime than the wonderful people of Chicago, a city I know very well. At least 414 people have been murdered in the city this year, a roughly 50% increase over last year. More than 1,900 people have been shot. These are numbers that aren't even to be believed. Yesterday alone, 23 people were shot in Chicago, including at least 15 who were shot in a merciless onslaught of gunfire outside of a funeral home. 63 people were shot in the city this past weekend, and at least 12 people were killed. Over the 4th of July weekend, nearly 80 people were shot and 17 were killed. Over Father's Day weekend, 104 people were shot and 15 were killed, including 5 young children. And the last weekend in May saw the city's deadliest day on record, 18 murders in 24 hours. Behind each of these horrifying statistics is a victim, a family, a loved one, and a life of cruelly shattered. And it's just so sad to see and so sad to look and so sad to see how these lives have been just torn apart. An African-American father of 3 was killed while walking into a store to pay his cell phone bill. A 13-year-old girl was killed when a stray bullet came through the window of her home and hit her in the neck in the presence of her family. On Independence Day, 14-year-old Vernado Jones Jr. was playing basketball with friends in a Chicago park when he was senselessly killed in a massacre that left 8 people dead or wounded. Vernado's mother, Cheryl, is here with us today. And Cheryl, please know that all Americans mourn by your side. We will carry your son's memory. He will not be forgotten. Cheryl? Cheryl? Thank you very much. Thank you for being here, Cheryl. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to meet you before. Thank you. This rampage of violence shocks the conscience of our nation, and we will not stand by and watch it happen. Can't do that. The citizens of Chicago are citizens of America, and they have the same right as every other American to live in safety, dignity, and peace. No mother should ever have to cradle her dead child in her arms simply because politicians refuse to do what is necessary to secure their neighborhood and to secure their city. Every American, no matter their income, their race, or their zip code, should be able to walk their city streets free from violence and free from fear. For this reason, today, I am announcing that the Department of Justice will immediately surge federal law enforcement to the city of Chicago. The FBI, ATF, DEA, U.S. Marshal Service, and Homeland Security will together be sending hundreds of skilled law enforcement officers to Chicago to help drive down violent crime. And murderers and violent criminals are breaking a wide range of federal laws. We have that. It's as wide as it can be. We will find them, arrest them, and prosecute them. They will be in jail for many years to come. And we will work with local police to identify violations of state and local laws to help ensure that offenders are caught and jailed for their crimes. But we must remember that the job of policing a neighborhood falls on the shoulders of local elected leadership. Never forget that. When they abdicate their duty, the results are catastrophic. Americans must hold their city leaders accountable. They must insist that community officials fully support, fully back, and fully fund their local police departments. There is simply no substitute for a police department that has the strong backing of city leaders. In the meantime, we will use federal law enforcement to vigorously charge federal crimes and support these besieged communities to the greatest extent possible. This will be hard, painstaking work. It will take time. The tide will not recede overnight, but we will marshal all of the strength and focus and determination that we can possibly do. This is a critical effort. We will continue to call on state and local leaders to do their job and protect their citizens. The operation in Chicago will be done as part of Operation Legend, which was recently launched in Kansas City, Missouri, and very successfully, I might add. It is named after Legend Taliaferro, a 4-year-old boy who's shot, think of this, he was shot and killed last month while he lay asleep in his home. Legend's mother grieves our hearts and pains and souls, and we thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We are profoundly grateful to be joined by Sharon. Would you please stand, Sharon? Sharon, please. And also Legend's father, Raphael, and his grandparents, Alfred and Pauline. Yes? You look so great, so great. Thank you very much. I appreciate your nice statements before, too. Thank you very much. Thank you. Legend is looking down. He's very proud of you right now, I tell you. Thank you very much. To Legend's family, we cannot even begin to imagine your anguish and your sorrow, but we solemnly promise to honor Legend, and we will be fighting every day to save the lives of America's children. Under Operation Legend, we will also soon send federal law enforcement to other cities that need help. Other cities need help. They need it badly. They should call. They should want it. They're too proud or they're too political to do that. One of them is Albuquerque, New Mexico, where last fall, 55-year-old Jackie Vigil was murdered as she was getting into her car to go to the gym. We're joined today by her husband, Sam, and her sons, Raul and Kevin, both New Mexico State police officers. Would you please stand? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Great-looking family. Thank you very much. To Sam, Raul, and Kevin, we're moved beyond words by your presence here today. We thank you very much for being here. It's a great honor to meet you. This afternoon, I'm also announcing that the Department of Justice will provide more than $61 million in grants to hire hundreds of new police officers in cities that are the focus of Operation Legend. We will never defund the police. We will hire more great police. We want to make law enforcement stronger, not weaker. What cities are doing is absolute insanity. Many of the same politicians who want to slash resources for law enforcement have also declared that their cities are sanctuaries for criminal illegal aliens. In other words, after arresting illegal aliens for crimes, the police are ordered to release those criminals back onto the streets to continue their crime. Last year, Chicago politicians forced the release of illegal aliens charged with crimes such as assault, armed robbery, strangulation, and attempted murder. My administration will be working to remove dangerous offenders sprung loose by these deadly policies and, frankly, by these deadly politicians. America must be a sanctuary for law-abiding citizens, not criminal aliens. My vision for America's cities could not be more different from the lawlessness being pushed by the extreme radical left. While others want to defund, defame, and abolish the police, I want to support and honor our great police. While the radicals want to abolish charter schools and eliminate school choice, I want to expand school choice, and every family in America should have that option. While others want to destroy opportunity, shut down businesses, and send our jobs overseas, we are hiring Americans and we are buying American product. We want to build factories in Baltimore, not Beijing. We want to make our products in Chicago, not Shanghai. We want the American dream for American children, and I will fight to deliver that dream every ounce, every single ounce of my strength. I will be fighting. But opportunity cannot thrive where there is violence, prosperity cannot flourish where there is bloodshed, and security cannot exist where there are violent criminals who are able to maim and murder with impunity. That is what Operation Legend is all about. That is why we are here today, to answer the pleas of those crying for justice and crying for help. For those people in Chicago and other cities where we'll be, help is on its way. I'd now like to ask Attorney General William Barr, is doing a fantastic job, to explain Operation Legend in greater detail, followed by Acting Secretary Wolf, and then we'll hear from loved ones of fallen Americans. I'll ask Sam Vigil and Sharon Powell to the podium, and we'd love to hear them say a few words in honor of their loved one. Thank you very much. Please, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'd like to thank especially the families of the victims who have come here today. and have allowed us to inaugurate this effort in the name of their loved ones. And I'd like to thank all our law enforcement colleagues from around the country, state, local, and federal. As the President said, the first duty of government is to protect the safety of our citizens. And we're here to explain the initiative to combat rising violent crime in a number of our cities. Our goal is to help save lives. The principal danger to the lives of our inner city communities is violent crime. The leading cause of death for young black males is homicide. Each year, approximately 7,500 black Americans are the victims of homicide. Every one of those lives matter. In 1992, violent crime was nationwide, was double what it is today. And it was at that time that federal law enforcement first turned its attention to this kind of violent crime. Before that, the federal government really didn't play that much of a role in it. But we started to attack violent crime in conjunction with state and local government. It was at that time, for example, that the FBI set up its anti-gang task forces throughout the United States. And we started using our strong federal laws that permit us to target those who use guns to kill others and those that are involved in gang activity. Our approach was to set up anti-violent crime task forces in the cities to enforce federal law and take the shooters and the chronic violent criminals off the streets. We helped pay for state and local officers to join these task forces so we could leverage our strength. And this approach was extremely successful in the intervening decades in driving crime down. Now, at the end of the Obama administration, crime started going back up again. And for the first two and a half years of this administration, we were succeeding in pushing it down. But less than a year ago, Mr. President, you'll recall that as we saw crime starting to go up in a few cities, you asked me to initiate a surge in those cities to help our state and local partners deal with it. And so we did start this program, which we called Relentless Pursuit. Unfortunately, COVID intervened and we had to abort that effort. And since then, we had that terrible event in Minneapolis, but then we had this extreme reaction that has demonized police and called for the defunding of police departments. And what we have seen then is a significant increase in violent crime in many cities. And this rise is a direct result of the attack on the police forces and the weakening of police forces. And the President's gone through the terrible statistics. So in response to that, we have initiated this program, Operation Legend, to step up the activity of our task forces, our anti-crime task forces in the hard-hit cities by committing more federal agents and supporting more state and local task force officers. It's important to stress that the operations we're talking about are the standard anti-crime fighting activities we have been carrying out around the country for decades. We will be adding federal agents to the task forces. These are street agents, they're investigators who will be working to solve murders and to take down the violent gangs, and they'll be working shoulder to shoulder with our state and local colleagues. This is a different kind of operation, obviously, than the tactical teams we use to defend against riots and mob violence. And we're going to continue to confront mob violence. But the operations we're discussing today are very different. They are classic crime fighting. We have named the operation, as we've said, Operation Legend, and we started rolling it out a couple of weeks ago in Kansas City. And just to give you an idea of what's possible, the FBI went in very strong into Kansas City, and within 2 weeks, we've had 200 arrests. We will be adding cities in the weeks ahead, and for now, we're including, beyond Kansas City, as the President said, Chicago and Albuquerque. The FBI is today announcing rewards for information related to the killing of Legend, Jackie, and Vernado. We are seeking justice for those victims today, and Operation Legend aims to immediately help our police agencies and our local leadership to prevent additional victims. The FBI has established a hotline for the public to report information they may have that may help in solving these murders. The hotline number is 1-800-CALL-FBI. To carry out Operation Legend, federal law enforcement agencies will be committing additional resources to these cities, including FBI agents, DEA, ATF, the U.S. Marshals, and the Department of Homeland Security, HSI, teams. To date, we have sent over 200 federal agents to Kansas City. We are directing a comparable number of agents to augment Chicago's existing task forces, and we are providing an additional 35 agents to Albuquerque. The United States attorneys for Chicago, Albuquerque, and Kansas City are here today. These U.S. attorneys and the chief federal law enforcement officials in each of these cities are ultimately responsible for coordinating the federal effort and ensuring prosecutions from this initiative are effective. Linked to this increase in federal law enforcement agents, we are also providing additional financial assistance to the state and local enforcement agencies to permit them to provide more cops, more members of our task force. As I said, federal agents work hand in glove with state and local law enforcement every day. We supplement and provide support to local law enforcement, but violent crime is ultimately a problem that will be solved by state and local leadership in these cities, as the President said. Our announcement today is a demonstration of our commitment to the men and women who serve as police officers in Chicago, Albuquerque, and Kansas City. Your efforts to protect these communities are not forgotten. So too, this announcement and Operation Legend as a whole is also a commitment to the families of Legend Taliaferro, Jackie Verhill, and Vernado James, that those names will not be forgotten. We will not rest until justice is delivered for your loved ones. Thank you.
Well, Mr. President, thank you for the invitation to be here today. It's always an honor to discuss the actions to protect and defend the peace and liberty we value in this country. Attorney General Barr, partnership our departments have in executing a shared mission of protecting the homeland and bringing justice to those who threaten it remains as strong as ever. So thank you for your partnership. As the nation's largest law enforcement agency, the Department of Homeland Security stands ready and able to commit our highly skilled, highly trained Homeland Security investigative special agents to help restore law and order. In the wake of 9/11, DHS was founded so that the federal government could better partner directly with state and local law enforcement. As DHS supports this critical effort led by the Department of Justice, Homeland Security investigative agents will leverage their networks, their assets, and their expertise to energize criminal investigations. Homeland Security Investigations' mission is to investigate some of the most violent criminals, specifically those involving transnational gangs and narcotics trafficking. And let me just take a quick moment to clearly make a distinction, as the Attorney General did, about what is occurring in Portland versus the important action that we're announcing here today. In Portland, we see almost 2 months of coordinated violent attacks by anarchists against a federal courthouse and federal law enforcement officials sworn to protect it. In Chicago, we see an unprecedented rise in crime against fellow citizens. The DHS mission in Portland is to protect federal property and our law enforcement officers. In Chicago, the mission is to protect the public from violent crime on the streets. Leaders of these great cities should not stand behind the status quo. They should stand with America. They should condemn these violent attacks, and they should work with this administration and this president to bring about law and order. I know everyone standing here today, every Homeland Security investigations agent assigned to Operation Legend, and every reasonable American agrees with the basic premise that every 4-year-old should be safe at night to sleep in their bed. The department grieves with all the families experiencing excruciating and heart-wrenching stories of loss. We as a department stand resolute, committed to working together across the federal government and with our state and local law enforcement partners to keep that promise. So again, thank you, Mr. President. The department is grateful for your continued support of our law enforcement officers as we continue to ensure the safety and security of all Americans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chris, do you want to say a few words, please? You're going to be a big part of it, huh? Come on, go ahead, please.
The real measure of success of initiatives like Operation Legend is the ability of communities to feel safe. It's not about the number of arrests, it's about the ability of kids to be able to play outside of their homes, about families to be able to walk to and from work, and that's what this operation is designed to do. And it's going to be a significant surge of federal resources to partner with our great state and local law enforcement partners to achieve safety and the confidence that the American people need to have that they can live safe in their community. So thank you, Mr. President.
Please. Please. Please, sir.
I would start off by thanking you for, I never imagined that I would be in the same room with the most powerful person on earth. And thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Barr. I would like to just very briefly make a few comments about my wife, the way she was. Jackie was the type of person that loved to go to the gym. That was one of her big things. She also liked to send out prayers on a daily basis to people. She would pick verses from the Bible, prayers that she came across with, and she would either email those prayers or tweet them to some of her friends there in Albuquerque. That all ended on November 19th. As I mentioned before, she was one of those people that had to go to the gym, otherwise she wouldn't make it through the day. We usually get up around 4:30 to 4:45. She got up, I got up, I went downstairs, I got me a cup of coffee. She came down and she says, well, I'll see you in about an hour. That's about how long she would spend at the gym. I heard the garage door open, and then all of a sudden, almost immediately after that, I heard the horn on the car. So I went out there and I thought maybe she forgot her gym card or something and wants me to go out there and take it back to her. When I opened the door, the garage door was open. There was a vehicle behind hers blocking her. And I still didn't snap. I thought, well, maybe the guy that delivers the paper usually around that time of day or, was the one in the back of the car. Then I noticed that wasn't so. Somebody had shot and killed her there. I saw a person walk over on the on the passenger side of the vehicle that was behind her and get on and take off like crazy. To this day, I can't forget that. Every time I go to bed, every time I go out into the driveway, that memory comes back and it haunts me. And Jackie, my wife, did not deserve to be killed that way. Nobody does, Of course, Albuquerque, as you probably all know, those of you in law enforcement, has a reputation for being one of the most violent cities in the country, actually. You know, we've ranked up there in first place, second place, and that doesn't seem to be going away. You know, it's been 8 months since my wife died, and there's been no arrests at all. Nobody has been arrested for the crime. There are other victims in Albuquerque that are in the same boat. The Journal reported back a couple of months ago that the rate of solving homicides in Albuquerque was less than 50%. You know, and that in itself tells you a big story as to where we're at, how we need desperately some help to get after the crime rates that we have going on there. And I really appreciate the effort that you all are putting into this, and I welcome that. And if there's anything that I can do, please let me know. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sam. And we're going to be giving a special effort to that when we go in. We have some very talented people going in. We're going to give a very special effort to Jackie. Okay? Thank you very much. Sharon, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the efforts. Good afternoon. I am Sharon Powell. I am Legend Talaferro's mother. I want to thank God for giving me the strength to withstand today. Operation Legend is not to harass, it's not to harm or to hurt. It is to help investigate unsolved murders, and which one of those happened to be our innocent 4-year-old son. This operation is personal to us. We want justice for our son and others. We have to take a stand in our communities and speak up to help this operation be successful. My one and only child, who fought through open heart surgery at 4 months, is gone due to senseless gun violence. Children are supposed to be our future, and our 4-year-old son didn't make it to kindergarten. I stand here today as a mother fighting against violence for my son, Legend Talaferro. My family and I support Operation Legend, and we strongly want our community and everyone else behind us. Thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate all the efforts. One thing about Legend, he was exciting. He loved basketball. He was a ball of joy. And I want his legacy to live on, and I want us to continue to fight against violence and also get justice for my son and others. So with this operation, I want it to be successful. So if every community can reach out to that hotline, if you know any information about any murder, that would be great. And also to keep carrying on this legacy. Thank you once again. I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Legend and Jackie are looking down right now at you and very proud, very proud. Thank you both. Thank you, families, for being here. Thank you. So to every family, I'm very proud to stand with you in this struggle. I'm proud to stand with the heroes of law enforcement. They are true heroes. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it very much. Great, great people. And I'm proud to fight by your side to deliver a better future for the citizens of every race, color, religion, and creed. As soon as the cities and states call to ask for help on a very large basis, we will be there with full force, and we will stop this horrible situation very quickly. But in the meantime, we're doing something that's going to have an impact. And Mr. Attorney General, thank you very much. Chad, thank you very much. Do a good job. I have no doubt you will. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. See you later. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Today, my administration reached a historic agreement with Pfizer to produce and deliver 100 million doses of their vaccine immediately following its approval. Hopefully, the approval process will go very quickly, and we think we have a winner there. We also think we have other companies right behind that are doing very well in the vaccines, long ahead of schedule. As part of Operation Warp Speed, this agreement will also ensure that we receive an additional 500 million doses shortly thereafter. This is another crucial step in our effort to develop, manufacture, and distribute a vaccine in record-breaking time, really a very small fraction of the time based on previous schedules. I want to thank the FDA. I want to thank everybody involved. It's been an incredible process. As discussed yesterday, the China virus poses the greatest threat to our senior citizens, as we all know. The median age for those who die from the virus is 78 years old, and nearly half of the deaths have occurred among those living in nursing homes or long-term care facilities. That's really something. In other words, approximately half of the fatalities have occurred among less than 1% of the U.S. population. So think of that, less than 1%, half of the fatalities. So we know what to look for. From the beginning, we have made it our top priority to shelter our seniors. In early March, we announced guidelines suspending all medically unnecessary visits to nursing homes and prioritized resources for those facilities. And we gave it a very strong priority. FEMA has sent shipments to many different locations of protective equipment, and it's going directly to 15,400 Medicaid and Medicare certified nursing homes throughout the country. Today, I'd like to provide an update on the additional actions we've been able to take, and they've been very constructive. First, we're requiring increased testing of the nursing home personnel in states where you had the worst outbreaks. All personnel will be tested at the highest level. We're distributing 15,000 rapid point-of-care diagnostic devices to support this effort. These are the tests where it takes 5 minutes to 15 minutes. They're very accurate. They're very good. And we're sending them all over the country. And over 600 devices will be also shipped this week to additional facilities. Second, HHS will be distributing an additional $5 billion from the Provider Relief Fund to all nursing homes. Nursing homes in higher risk areas will be receiving more funding. This money can be used to address critical needs, including the hiring of additional staff, increasing testing, and providing technology support so residents can connect their families, and they can connect to their families. They are having a tremendous time. They want to be with their loved ones. They can't do it. So what we're doing is we're working it so that we can connect, have them connect with their families if they're not able to visit. Third, we've been identifying especially high-risk nursing homes and sharing that information with the governors so that the governors and their staffs can take appropriate action. We're able to find, because of the testing programs and other means, we're able to find certain areas that are very high risk. The governors can then take action. Additionally, CMS, CDC, and the U.S. Public Health Service are providing enhanced technical assistance and support, including visits to the highest risk nursing homes, and that's their priority right now. Nursing homes, but the highest risk nursing homes. CMS and CDC are implementing a national training program focused on infection control for those nursing homes that need it most. And we have them surveyed, and we have them mostly pinpointed. Over the past few months, we've created a surveillance system to detect outbreaks, and currently 99% of all nursing homes are reporting directly to it. So we have great data. When a nursing home has 3 or more cases, we alert the state and make sure that it responds very quickly. We check on it, make sure they respond very quickly. I want to send a message of support and hope to every senior citizen who has been dealing with the struggle of isolation in what should be the golden years of your life. We will get to the other end of that tunnel very quickly, we hope. The light is starting to shine. We will get there very quickly. But we send our love. We send a message of love. Very important. We're with you all the way. As far as the outbreak in the Sun Belt, I said yesterday we continue to vigorously combat the rise of cases in the South and Southwest and the West. We're closely monitoring and aggressively acting to control the infection in Texas, Arizona, California, Florida. Arizona is starting to come down. Done a very good job. They're all doing a good job. They're very talented people. There are likely a number of causes for the spike in infections. Cases started to rise among young Americans shortly after demonstrations, which you know very well about, which presumably triggered a broader relaxation of mitigation efforts nationwide, and a substantial increase in travel also was a cause. Increased gathering on holidays such as Memorial Day, as well as young people closely congregating at bars and probably other places, maybe beaches, 4 or 5 different listed places. We have 12 that are listed on the guide, likely also contributed. We're also sharing a 2,000-mile border with Mexico, as we know very well, and cases are surging in Mexico, unfortunately. It's with the president, and it's a big problem for Mexico, but cases are surging very sharply and all across the rest of the Western Hemisphere. 257 miles of newly constructed wall along the southern border has had a great positive impact on people coming in, and we have record low numbers of people coming in illegally. That's helped greatly. It was really meant for a different purpose, but it worked out very well for what we're doing right now and for the pandemic. Nationwide, beyond the outbreak in several states, cases remain low and very stable. 19 states have positive test rates of less than 5%. 8 states have positive test rates of less than 2%. Our nationwide positive test rate is beginning to decline and is currently at 8.8%, compared to over 16% at its peak in April. It's coming down. It's coming down fairly rapidly. Today, we surpassed, first time, we surpassed 50 million tests. That's far more than any country in the world. India is second, we believe. We think 1.4 billion people. That's about 12 million tests. We have 50 million tests. We're working with every state to ensure the supply of remdesivir for early case intervention and steroid treatment and various other treatments for those that are seriously ill. We're working very closely with hospitals, doctors, nursing homes, everybody. The remdesivir has proven to be terrific. Our case fatality rate continues to decline, and we want to push this rate even lower. The therapeutic research continues daily on new and very promising treatments, including antibody treatments and the use of blood thinners and steroids. A lot of different things are happening, and a lot of things are coming out that we wouldn't have known a number of months ago. We're doing tremendously well on therapeutic research and tremendously well on the vaccines. And frankly, therapeutically, or maybe a word even beyond that word, is cure, would be the best of all, and we'll see what happens. But that would be great if we could go into the hospital and just cure people. And we're at a position where we're actually able to a certain extent, with what we have right now, and we think that in a very short period of time we'll be able to do that. Our strategy is to shelter the highest risk Americans while allowing younger and healthier citizens to return to work or school while being careful and very vigilant. Wear a mask, socially distance, and repeatedly wash your hands. Practice very, very good sanitary means. You have to do this. You have to you have to look at it differently. Wash your hands often. I'm finding more and more people are saying wash your hands. So wash your hands. We want young Americans to avoid packed bars and other crowded indoor gatherings, and we're all in this together. And as Americans, we're going to get this complete. We're going to do it properly. We've been doing it properly. Sections of the country come up that we didn't anticipate, for instance, Florida, Texas, etc. But we're working with very talented people, very brilliant people, and it's all going to work out, and it is working out. So with that, I'll take a few questions, please. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, I just want to ask you a question about the surge of federal agents to various cities.
Yeah.
The mayor of Chicago just said moments ago that you're doing this to divert attention from your failures on coronavirus. You are only targeting cities.
We haven't had that failure.
You are only targeting cities, though, run by Democrats. Is this just a political stunt?
Yeah, the cities, unfortunately, that are in trouble are all run by Democrats. You have radical left Democrats running cities like Chicago and so many others that we just had a news conference. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. I mean, that's the facts. When you look at Chicago and you look at the job, Mayor Lightfoot sent me a letter yesterday, and I think in their own way they want us to go in. There'll be a time when they're going to want us to go in full blast, but right now we're sending extra people to help. We're arresting a lot of people that have been very bad. As far as the coronavirus, as you say, I think we've done some amazing things, and I think you'll probably see that if you compare our statistics to other countries, and if you look at death rates, et cetera, you're going to see, and especially into the future with what's happening, you're going to see some very, very impressive numbers for the United States. John, please.
Just a follow-up on that.
Go ahead,
real
John.
quick. Mr. President, do you plan to do a national strategy to help schools reopen and reopen safely? And regarding the children in your family, your son, your grandchildren, are you comfortable? Do you plan to have them back in person in school
Yeah,
this
well, I
fall?
am comfortable with that. And we do have a national strategy, but as you know, ultimately it's up to the governors of the states. I think most governors, many governors, want the schools to open. I would like to see the schools open, especially when you see statistics like this. We have great statistics and on young people and on safety. So we would like to see schools open. We want to see the economy open. We just had a report, literally as I walked in, that we set an all-time record on housing price increases, up, I think they said 21%, which is a record that's never happened before. That's a great sign. We have an economy that's going to be booming. It's going to be, a lot of jobs are being produced. The job numbers will be coming out shortly, meaning over the next week or so, and I think it'll be a continuation of the last 2 months. The last 2 months have been incredible. So I think we're going to have a great economy. You're going to have a fantastic next year. I think you're going to have a very good third quarter, actually, when the third quarter numbers come out. Interestingly, they'll be announced just before the election. They'll be announced around November 1st. So, yeah, I would like to see the schools open 100%, and we'll do it safely, we'll do it carefully. But when you look at the statistics I just read having to do with children and safety, they're very impressive. They have very strong immune systems.
But you would understand that the children who go to school, then go back to home, they're with, some live with their grandparents,
Sure.
that there's a real risk. Would you understand if
Well,
some
they do
schools...
say that they don't transmit very easily, and a lot of people are saying they don't transmit, and we're looking at that. We're studying, John, very hard, that particular subject, that they don't bring it home with them. Now, they don't catch it easily, they don't bring it home easily, and if they do catch it, they get better fast. We're looking at that fact. That is a factor, and we're looking at that very strongly. We'll be reporting about that over the next week. Please.
Mr. President, at least 3 governors today came out with new orders on mask requirements.
Yeah.
Is that something you wish all the governors would do? Is that
Well, a lot of the governors, they have different requirements. Some of the governors are very strong on masks, others aren't. I think it's really going to ultimately be up to them. We've given them the facts. We've given them everything we know. They have their own facts. Some are strong on masks, and as you know, some aren't in the same ballpark. But I think all are suggesting if you want to wear a mask, you wear it. I bring one. I have one. I've worn it. And I think when I'm in certain settings like hospitals and various, or when I'm close, when you can't socially distance, I believe in it. Let's see, do I? I do. I have it. And if in certain instances, I think you really, I think you want to travel with a mask. There are instances where you really can use it. I would believe it would be a good thing. Yeah,
Sir,
please.
one just follow-up. D.C. Mayor Bowser came out with such an order today. It, of course, doesn't apply to federal properties, but would you encourage federal properties, and including the White House complex, to follow the order?
We're gonna make a decision over the next 24 hours. We'll let you know what that decision is. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
President Trump, do you agree with Senate Republicans discussing the possibility of extending short-term unemployment insurance today so that they prevent benefits from expiring?
Well, I think a lot of politicians are discussing that, Republicans, Democrats, and right now a lot of my representatives are on the Hill. They're discussing CARES Act or Phase 4, whatever you want to call it. And I think ultimately something good will come out of it. The economy is starting to really come back strongly when you look at the numbers, even with the fact that, like, California is still closed up in many big states. I think the numbers are even more impressive considering that some states, like California, big ones, are pretty well shut down. So we expect to have something over a period of time, over the appropriate period of time. Please,
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. These two questions are with Andrew Feinberg and J.C. Bua. One is, today you said you're sending federal law enforcement officers to run cities run by extreme politicians, that's the word you used, who happen to be all Democrats, who have supported Black Lives Matter protests. Millions of Americans
I didn't say who
voted.
supported. No, I said Democrat politicians, and these are the cities where you have the problem. If you look at Chicago, if you look at Detroit, if you look, I mean, look around any of these cities where we have the problems, and we're sending them help, but we're really waiting for them to call for the big help, for the big numbers, for the large numbers of people that we have ready, willing, and able. You look at Chicago, where 14 people were shot yesterday, where over the weekend many people died and many people were shot, and over the last month they're setting record numbers. We are waiting for the mayor, respectfully, and other mayors and governors to call us. We are ready, willing, and able to go in there with great force. Now, we also have people that are going in and arresting drug dealers, arresting some of the shooters that are doing the shooting. We know who they are. We're working with police forces, and even though in some cases they're told don't work with the federal government, the police forces have great respect for the federal government, what we do. But we're ready, willing, and able to go into these cities that are just being decimated with shooting, and we're going to help. Please.
I have a question on crime, but first, I don't think we really got an explanation yesterday on why the health experts are no longer joining you at these briefings. Can you explain why?
Because they're briefing me. I'm meeting them. I just spoke to Dr. Fauci. Dr. Birx is right outside, and they're giving me all of everything they know as of this point in time, and I'm giving the information to you, and I think it's probably a very concise way of doing it. It seems to be working out very well.
Okay, so on crime.
But they're very much involved. They're very much with the relationships are all very good, all very good. The relationships that we have with the doctors, with everybody working on the virus, has been, I think, extraordinary. Kaylee's here, and I think you would say the same thing. You work with them all the time. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So on crime, in 2016, you said it was President Obama's fault that homicides were up in Chicago. So why was it the president's fault then, but it's not your fault now?
Chicago is a disaster. The mayor is saying, don't come in. The mayor is telling us not to come in. At some point, we can void that if we have to, but we may have to at some, because it's out of control. I assume she's saying that for political reasons. I think it's negative political reasons. She's a Democrat. I'm going to be nice. She's a Democrat. She's making a big mistake. People are dying in Chicago and other cities, and we can solve the problem. They have to ask us, but we can solve the problem.
Why was it President Obama's fault in 2016? You credited it as
Because
him
President
being involved.
Obama was invited in, and he did a poor job. President Obama could have gone into Chicago. He could have solved the problem, and he didn't. In our case, they don't want us in. We can solve the problem very easily. We're equipped with the best equipment, the best people, and you see what we're doing. I mean, Portland was coming down. It was busting at the seams, and we went in and protected all the federal buildings. Those federal buildings are totally protected. And we had to do that. And Portland's a very different place than Chicago. But Chicago should be calling us, and so should Philadelphia and Detroit and others, to go in and really help them. Because when you're losing many people a weekend, many, many people, you see the same numbers as I do. When you're losing these people, they should call us and they should say, come on in. And it's incredible to me, but they're not doing it. At some point they will. At some point we may have no other choice but to go in. Jeff, please.
Mr. President, are you looking at closing further Chinese embassies in the United States? And did you ask Ambassador Woody Johnson to bring the British Open to your Turnberry property in Scotland?
No, I never spoke to Woody Johnson about that, about Turnberry. Turnberry is a highly respected course, as you know, one of the best in the world. And I read a story about it today, and I never spoke to Woody Johnson about doing that. No. As far as closing additional embassies, it's always possible. You see what's going on. We thought there was a fire in the one that we did close, and everybody said there's a fire, and I guess they were burning documents or burning papers, and I wonder what that's all about. Okay, how about one or two more, please?
Yes, thank you. Would you like to respond to Joe Biden, who today described you might have heard that, as the first racist to be elected president? That was his words.
Well, you know, it's interesting because we did criminal justice reform. We passed criminal justice reform, something that Obama and Biden were unable to do. We did Opportunity Cities. We did the greatest, if you look at what we've done with Opportunity Zones, nobody's ever even thought of a plan like that. Prior to the China plague coming in, floating in, coming into our country and really doing terrible things all over the world, doing terrible things, we had the best African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, almost every group was the best for unemployment. The unemployment numbers were the best. You look at employment, you look at opportunity zones, and maybe most importantly, you look at criminal justice reform, you look at prison reform. I've done things that nobody else, and I've said this, and I say it openly, and not a lot of people dispute it. I've done more for Black Americans than anybody, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. Nobody has even been close. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.